Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. Today, we are talking about a roadmap for exploring career opportunities. And we have our colleagues from the Career Exploration Center, who I'll be introducing in just a moment. My name is Mikkel St. Germain. I'm the Director of Parent and Family Engagement here at Brown University, and I'm so happy to be joining all of you today, wherever you are tuning in from around the world. Today is the second part of our series, our winter parent and family webinar series. On Tuesday, we had one on study abroad, and that video is already up and posted on the same page where you are registering for these webinars. And next week, we have two more that are coming up. One will cover tips and thoughts on academic pressure and how to help your student through academic pressure and understand that better from the parent perspective. And then on Thursday, my favorite, understanding commencement. So we talk about the ceremonies in May and get ready for our folks to travel here and plan their weekends and think about the warm weather, since about 8 degrees outside here in Providence on the Brown University campus right now. We have about 75 people with us today, and the number keeps climbing. If for any reason you have to drop off at any point in time, or you want to share this with your student or someone else, we will record this, as I mentioned, and you'll be able to watch this at a later time. If you need to take advantage of closed captioning, we have a live captioner with us today, and you can access those captions by pressing the CC button at the bottom of the screen. We've received a number of your questions in advance of these webinars, and we've incorporated those into the presentation. However, if you have questions as we go along, or you need clarity on a specific point, please share that in the Q&A tool at the bottom of your screen, and we'll try and get to as many of those as possible throughout the presentation. However, if we don't get to your question, you can email the folks from the Career Exploration Center about career questions, or if your question is something unrelated, you can send them to me and my department at family@brown.edu, and we'll get that question to where it needs to go. So that is a lot of the housekeeping out of the way. At this point in time, I'd like to introduce to you my colleagues. We have Matthew Donato, who is the Associate Dean of the College and Executive Director for Brown Center for Career Exploration. And we also have with us Aixa Kidd, who's the Director of Partner Engagement and the Deputy Director for the Center for Career Exploration. And I'm so thrilled to have them both with us today. Let me hand it over to you guys and to start the presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Mikkel, and everybody. This is something that I look forward to every year. I've actually presented, Mikkel's invited me to present for each of the last few years anyway, in January, to a group of parents. So I'm really, really pleased to be here with all of you today to talk about the Career Center. And I'm also pleased that my colleague Aixa is joining me, and she'll be able to talk about some of our new initiatives, particularly our Brown Connect Plus platform. But I think we're probably going to minimize how much we present and talk at you. I mean, we're all talking at you because there's not a lot of interaction on a webinar, but I really appreciate the number and the detail of questions that were shared with us before the webinar. And I'd really like to spend probably a lot of our time answering those questions, because those are the things that you're all interested in. And I'd like to make sure we try to get to as many of those as possible, as well as Mikkel mentioned, the questions that you might submit today while we're talking. I'll just really briefly mention that if you're a new parent, you may not have heard about sort of the transformation of career support here at Brown. If you're a parent who's been part of the Brown community for a few years, you may have heard about this. But really, we made a pretty significant change in how we support students through careers back in August of 2023, when we relaunched and rebranded the Career Center to become the Brown Center for Career Exploration. And along with that rebranding and relaunch has come a growth in our staff and the programs that we administer, and a reorganization of how we approach career exploration with our students. The purpose of doing all of this was driven by President Paxson, who really felt it was important to take the good work that we were doing when we used to be the Center for Careers and Life After Brown and build on that work as the Brown Center for Career Exploration and invest in that work by growing the staff, by expanding what we're doing, and changing the way that we approach our support of students. So really, like, her charge to us was, through the growth and reorganization of the center, create a best-in-class career support program at Brown for our students, both undergraduate and graduate students. We also really are working to align career exploration with the open curriculum. I think this is incredibly important, as you know, Brown is known as a liberal arts institution, and I think sometimes people might not understand how careers and the liberal arts intersect with each other. I actually think liberal arts is the perfect way to prepare students for many, many different types of career paths, and there's not one career path that any given concentration or area of study at Brown prepares students for. So we really want to embed career exploration as an integral part of how students move through their academic experience here at Brown. And we want to make career exploration a more obvious part of the Brown student experience, because by talking about careers, by being more proactive about bringing careers to students, we also make careers more accessible and inclusive to all Brown students. And the third really important thing that we wanted to achieve with our transformation and our growth is energizing the Brown ecosystem, creating new opportunities to engage our partners on campus through our faculty and staff connections, as well as off campus with our employer partners, alumni, and family, like many of you. So over the last year and a half, 2 years, we've embarked on a period of change and growth here in the center. We've actually increased our staff by about 50%. So we've gone from a staff of 14 to a staff of 21, which is incredibly exciting. And one of the areas of investment that we're most excited about is the development and growth of our professional pathways team. So in the center, before we went through our transformation, we didn't have experts in particular industries. We had mainly career counselors who were generalists and who could help students think about how to approach the career exploration process. But now in the center, we have four, and soon to be 5 assistant deans who are working to support students in each of a specific professional pathway. So that includes pathways in arts and media, pathways in finance and consulting, pathways in careers in the common good, pathways in technology and tech ventures, and pathways in sciences and engineering. So we have these 5 different pathway areas. They're each broad, but each focused in a particular industry sector. And what we found is our pathways deans have been incredibly effective at connecting students into best practices in recruiting and job search in those pathways. They've been really, really proactive about reaching out and building connections within departments, and are really helping to realize this alignment of career exploration with the open curriculum in a very tangible way for our students. And they're bringing expertise into the center that we've never had before, and through that, creating innovative programs that get students engaged with careers earlier and give them a different way to approach career exploration than they've maybe considered in the past. So when we think about career exploration here at Brown, as part of our new model, we think about 3 activities that we want students to engage in regularly. We want students to reflect, we want students to connect, and we want students to explore. So this is sort of the 3 areas that we invest our time and our resources into: reflection, connection, and exploration. So when we want students to reflect, we want them to get to know themselves better, to understand their skills, their values, their interests, their goals, and their needs at any given time. We also want them to be curious about what career possibilities look like, and to start to develop knowledge about how they can align who they are with the types of things they're interested in exploring. When we ask students to connect, we want students to develop relationships with people both at Brown and outside of Brown. So that includes building networking relationships with alumni, participating in recruiting activities and getting to understand more about what jobs are available through employers, career fairs. We also want students to build relationships with faculty and have really robust relationships with their professors who might write recommendations or provide referrals for them in the future. And when we want students to explore, we want them to try things on campus and off campus. We want them to have campus jobs. We want them to be able to develop their skill set on campus and to take those skills that they develop in the classroom and outside the classroom and apply them off campus through internships and research experiences. Exploration is really important in the sense that students get to try things out and get to prototype careers for themselves. So when a student comes into our office and says, I might be interested in being a lawyer, but I don't necessarily know how to get there, we can talk to them about gaining experience in the law field through a variety of different internships or externship or shadowing experiences. We can help them connect with alumni to have conversations about that. And we can help them think about what skills they might bring to a law experience and how they might develop new skills that would be useful if they're interested in pursuing law school as a potential future pathway. So reflection, connection, and exploration is something that you'll see embedded in all of our marketing materials, on our website, and a lot of our messaging and our social media. And one of the things that I think is really exciting, this kind of goes along with our transformation, is that we've launched a major platform to enable that reflection, connection, and exploration to happen. And really, our Brown Connect Plus platform is geared towards helping students make connections within the alumni family and larger Brown community. So what I might do right now is ask Aixa, my colleague, to talk about Brown Connect Plus, because she has been sort of our programmatic leader for the launch of Brown Connect Plus, and is sort of the day-to-day person who manages that platform. So Aixa, do you want to talk a little bit about what Brown Connect Plus is and how students are engaged with it?
Yes, thank you, Matt. Hello, everyone. My name is Aixa Kidd. I'm the Deputy Director here in the Center for Career Exploration, and I'm the Director of our Partner Engagement team. So I live heavily on the connect side of things that Matt mentioned. I focus on important alumni and parent connections, and then I focus on employer partnerships that we have for recruiting coming to campus. What I'm most excited about, as Matt mentioned, was our launch this year of Brown Connect Plus. I've been at Brown now for 10 years. We initially launched with our system Brown Connect, which was unique to Brown for the past 10 years, building on important alumni and student connections. That was part of my role where President Paxton put that forward so that we could focus on alumni connections and internships. And then this is the next iteration of that, Brown Connect Plus, which I will talk heavily on the plus side. We launched this on September 17th in partnership with our alumni relations team here on campus. And really have deepened the ways students can connect with alumni. What we're most excited about is we have 3 ways that students can access alumni. Right now, your students have access to about 104,000 alumni through the People Directory, where students can search by industry, by concentration, by location. So if they want to network or have specific questions, if they want to reflect on various professions, if they have questions about opportunities or internships or pathways, they have access through the People Directory. In addition to that, though, we wanted to make sure that they could build on deeper relationships with alumni. So we actually created a number of mentoring programs. So students wanted to sustain relationships with alumni. They don't have to do it just through the one-off emails and create this organic relationship. We have built mentoring programs within the system so that alumni could raise their hand if they were interested in mentoring a student throughout the academic year. So students now have this subset of alumni, and that's over 270 alumni who have raised their hands saying, I will take up to 3 students over this next year to connect with, to talk about the possibilities. In addition to that, we created these wonderful pathway groups within the system too, these pathway communities in conjunction with our assistant deans that Matt talked about. So right now, students can join pathway communities in the system so they can connect with alumni and other students who are interested in careers in the common good industry, or who are interested in arts and media or tech and tech ventures. So they can connect with alumni within this industry, they can connect with alumni via mentorship programs, and they can connect with alumni via the directory, these one-offs. Part of our goal was to expand the way students can connect with them. And I think we are seeing that. We now have over 3,500 students actively in the system connecting with people, which we're excited about. The last thing I'll mention about the system is, of course, our Bruno opportunities. And those are opportunities that are posted by Brown alumni and parents that are specifically for Brown students. Now we have one place. So if you have a great internship opportunity for students, you can go to that form now, and I will absolutely drop it in the link. We can go to that form now where you can post an opportunity to hire wonderful Brown students within the community. It is also open to alumni. The beauty of the system and why we partnered with Alumni Relations is that the great news is this system looks the same if you're a student or you're an alum. So you may start using the system as a student and then continue to use this as an alum. So we're creating this community that will be ongoing and supportive of the students even when they're alumni. And then hopefully, eventually, they'll become alumni mentors where they were once student mentees. They can give back to other students who are in the same position they were. So we're really proud of this. It has taken off and we continue to grow. So we're excited about all these possibilities. I know there were a lot of questions about alumni connections in your what a lot of people asked how students can connect with alumni, and we really make it easy for them through this Brown Connect Plus system. And I see a bunch of questions came in, Matt, so I don't know if we can go off of Brown Connect Plus and start to answer some of these amazing questions.
Yeah, I think before we do that, I just want to make a couple points. Often when I speak in front of parents groups, parents will ask, what's something that I can do to help my student or my students, focus on their career or get involved in the internship search or build a networking connection. So I'd say, a couple things that I always recommend are make sure your student now is activated in Brown Connect Plus. So as I used to mention, Brown Connect Plus is a software platform that students can access through the Career Center website. We have about 3,500 students, a little over 3,500 students activated at this point, but that means there's a lot of undergrads and graduate students who aren't activated. So if your student is interested in building networking connections or are starting to think about the internship search for the summer, I would say Brown Connect Plus is a great place to start. And for students that are sort of having difficulty getting started with networking or just need some help writing that first resume or polishing up an existing resume as they prepare to apply for summer opportunities or even maybe full-time job opportunities, your students should come in and meet with a peer career advisor here in the Career Center. We have a group of 40 peer career advisors who are highly trained and work with students every day to get them prepared for a variety of different types of job searches, to help them with their application materials, to show them how to maximize their use of platforms like Brown Connect Plus or Handshake, which is our main job posting platform. So coming in and meeting with a peer career advisor, which you can do virtually any day of the week except Saturdays. We have open hours 6 days a week. There's an email address if you can't make open hours to get in touch with a peer career advisor. So there's lots of opportunities to get that advice. So please direct your students to make those connections either with us or even with alumni and others through Brown Connect Plus.
Matt, can I mention one more thing? So I'm sorry, I'm a big fan of networking. I'm a big fan of those connections. I also wanted to mention that students have journeys and trainings they can take. So a lot of questions I get from students are, I just don't know how to start, or I'm very nervous about reaching out. I am the parent of 2 college students as well, so I know how difficult it is to make that initial connection. So just know within the system, students go through a journey to help them prepare to be a better mentee. In addition to that, we run workshops throughout the year on how to best network. So know that it's not just about providing the connections. We also talk about the how-to and how to put your best foot forward. So I wanted to reiterate that too.
Yeah, I think that's great. I will mention that this is the time of year for first year, second year, and third year students when your student might be thinking about summer internships or maybe research experiences. If you're the parent of a senior, a fourth year student, maybe thinking about the job search. I want to assure a couple things to all the parents here on the call. One, it is not too late for your student to get a really great internship or even a full-time job after they graduate, even if they haven't started that search process yet. Just want to mention that because people start to get really nervous this time of year that, oh my gosh, it's January and my student doesn't have an internship, doesn't have a job. I can tell you that most internship and even many full-time job positions aren't posted here at the center or even by employers outside the center until February, March, April, even May. Like February, March, April are our busiest internship posting months. And even May and into June, there are still new internships being posted both on Handshake and through our internship postings on Brown Connect Plus with our parents and family community. So there are opportunities out there, and it's not too late for your student to begin that process of looking for and securing opportunities. The second thing I want to say is, and this is especially true if you're the parent of a first or even a second year student, if your student chooses not to have a summer internship, that is okay. Just want to pause there. It's okay, especially as a first year student, not to have a summer internship. Now, that doesn't mean that your student might not want one, and we certainly support any student that wants to find an internship or a research experience. We do encourage students to have productive summers. We want students to use their summers to develop skills or to learn new things or to explore their interests or their curiosities. But I also just want to say, especially for first year students, that first year at Brown can be really stressful, and sometimes going home for the summer, doing something that's maybe less intense than an internship or a really high level research experience is perfectly okay. It's not going to hurt their long-term career trajectory. And there are certain things they can do, even if they're not doing an internship, to still think about developing their career exploration process. So that might mean finding a mentor through Brown Connect Plus and engaging in a mentoring experience. It might mean doing some job shadowing or networking with people back home. It might include doing some intense research on different industries and deciding what they might be interested in pursuing the following year. But whatever they're interested in, if they need help making a plan, they should definitely come in and meet with a career counselor here in the Career Center, or they can also meet with one of our assistant deans in the professional pathways team if they know they want to explore a particular career pathway. And then the last thing I'll say before we open up to questions is if your students are looking for internships, there is a program that we run through the Career Center in partnership with colleagues in the college and many other parts of campus called the Sprint program. Sprint provides funded internship and research experiences to students, both through opportunities that we generate for students here at Brown and beyond, as well as opportunities that students bring to us that might be unpaid that we will consider for funding. So if your student thinks they want to do research at Brown with a faculty member this summer, they may want to consider applying for a Sprint fellowship through the UTRA program, our Undergraduate Teaching and Research Award Program. And typically more than 300 students receive funding to do internships with faculty on campus over the summer. And that funding can range from a minimum of $2,500 to a maximum of $6,500, depending on your financial aid level. And if you do have a summer earnings requirement on your financial aid package, and you receive a Sprint Fellowship Award, we will basically eliminate that summer earnings requirement from your package. You'll receive a summer earnings waiver, and that can be a value of up to $3,100. So essentially, there are lots of paid opportunities through the Sprint program, both on campus with faculty. We also have internship programs in a variety of cities in the US and around the world. So we have Careers in the Common Good internship program in New York. We have an arts and media internship program in Los Angeles. We have entrepreneurship programs in Europe, in both Stockholm and Berlin. And these are all paid internship opportunities through Brown that your student can apply to. So if they haven't talked about the Sprint program, or you think this might be a good fit for them, please do send them to our website. We have a pretty detailed description of the Sprint program on our website, and let them know that for opportunities that are Brown generated, where we have internship or research opportunities that students can apply to directly, the deadline for that application is on February 2nd. And for opportunities that students are bringing to us, if they've secured an unpaid internship or research experience and they want to get that funded potentially, they can apply to our student-generated deadline for Sprint, which is March 2nd. So for the opportunities that we list, the deadline is February 2nd. For the opportunities that students bring to us that they'd like funding for, the opportunity is March 2nd. The deadline is March 2nd. And then there's a whole bunch of eligibility criteria on our website that students can read through, or they can come into the center and ask one of our peer advisors or a career counselor for advice on how to pursue that. So I just wanted to put those deadlines out there, and I'm not going to stop talking, but
I shared the link, Matt, so they have the link in the system,
I'm
but
going to move to questions. So I don't know, Mikkel, if you want to.
Yeah, I can dive into some questions. There's some themes that are coming through. One that popped up in registration, and then also I saw in some of the questions here. You talked a little bit about it's not too late for seniors. What about first year students? What's too early? Talk about the startup for earlier students.
Yeah, I mean, I think for first year students, my expectations, they're not low, but I don't try to have a lot of expectations for a first year student really knowing exactly how they want to engage with career exploration. I would say success as a first year student would be coming into the center, meeting with a peer career advisor, probably maybe writing that first resume, getting it in really good shape so they feel confident about how they're presenting themselves on paper. I might even say after you meet with a peer career advisor, a first year could come in and meet with a career counselor or attend a number of our workshops. We put on dozens and dozens of workshops through the center each year on topics like how to network, how to find and fund an internship, how to make the most of your internship experiences. So really understanding what we do in the center, how to plug into our resources, and then starting to use some of those resources, like starting to use Brown Connect Plus, starting to maybe look at some jobs in Handshake. I think that's success for a first year student. I don't think you have to have an internship at the end of your first year to make that a successful first year, but starting to think about what you're curious about and starting to think about the things you might want to explore, and then taking some steps to begin that reflection exploration, the reflection connection exploration process is really positive progress. But for first year students who do think they want to try an internship or even just looking for a summer job, we can definitely support those activities. And sometimes the Sprint program is a good place to start, especially as a first year student, because we really try to prioritize students. We get many more applications than we can fund. So typically we fund about somewhere between 45 and 50% of all our applicants, but that still means like last year, we funded over 800 students with more than $5 million of funding through the Sprint program. So there are a lot of opportunities. And I would suggest, as a first year student looking for an internship, you can imagine the skills that a first year student might have might not be as competitive as the skills that a junior or even a senior might have. Not that they're worse necessarily objectively, but I think finding an opportunity through Sprint can be a really great way to get that first internship or research experience, which then would prepare you to be really competitive in other searches in sophomore, junior, and senior year. So that would kind of be my advice for first-year students, is to at least come into the center, come to an event or program, meet with a peer advisor, and then maybe consider meeting with a career counselor or even one of our assisted deans. That would be a really great set of steps to take as a first-year student at Brown.
Thank you, Matt. This next one I'll direct to you, Aixa. This is about the alumni who are in the Plus program. Have all 104,000 offered to speak with students on their career paths?
So I saw this question, and yes and no. And the answer is they have an opportunity to shut themselves off or to hide themselves if they don't want to connect with students. So know that they have the ability to shut them off. However, we have not said shut yourself off if you don't want to connect with students. And we do this on purpose because we find there are many alumni who raise their hand, and they do that in the groups, in the mentoring program, etc. Some alumni don't raise their hands, but still love to talk to students. I have a couple of famous alumni who I will not name, who have often said, listen, I will not raise my hand because I don't want everyone to find me, but when a student emails me through the directory, I respond back. So we give multiple options. So technically, no, they don't all say, yes, I want to connect with students. But I have to say the response rate has been fairly high, which is really nice. And we'd love to increase that in the future.
Yeah,
Thank
I'll
you.
I'll just add to that I think one of the nice features of the new Brown Connect Plus platform is that alumni can raise their hands and say, yes, I want to network with students, which can give students a lot of confidence that if they reach out to that alum, they're likely to respond. That wasn't a feature in our old system. And then students can also see who has been recently active in
Yes,
the
it's so popular with students.
students have really liked that, because when they see, oh, like, not only is this alum interested in networking, but maybe they were active in the last week or two, that can also maybe make it more likely that they'll reach out to that alum and build that connection, and more likely that the alum will respond. That being said, the other advantage of our system is not only do we have these alumni who've raised their hands, now students have access to the entire directory of alumni that Aixa mentioned. I don't think it's quite 104,000, because I don't know that we have active contact information for every alum in the Brown ecosystem. But I will say, like, students can also take initiative to reach out to people if they're not active. And alumni in the Brown community are pretty responsive. I'd say the analog to Brown Connect Plus is LinkedIn, and we train students on how to use LinkedIn as well as a tool to find alumni connections, Brown alumni connections. And even the alumni who are in LinkedIn, who you might think are just sitting out there, maybe they will respond, maybe they won't. When our students do reach out through LinkedIn, they tend to get really high response rates. And a high response rate is probably, if you send 10 LinkedIn requests or emails, you get 2 or 3 responses. That's actually a really, really good response rate. Anything above like 4 or 5 responses out of 10 is an unbelievable response rate. So our alumni are really engaged and are often willing to take time to talk with students. And we teach students how to do that outreach in a proactive, productive way that doesn't feel transactional, hopefully, and that really leads to a conversation rather than a 1 or 2 word response from an alum or something like that. So that's our goal, is to help students become good at having these conversations and at building those relationships.
Yeah, and I would imagine that's how parents can also help their students too, to reinforce that taking those steps to reach out.
And I would like to reiterate, parents are also great connectors. So that student's roommate or that student's teammate or that student's friend who may be looking at a career in a certain pathway, if you can be that connection for that student, phenomenal. So don't forget your wonderful connections for your student and your student's friends.
Absolutely, good point. Matt, can you talk a little bit about how your center has increased their visibility, how you're more proactive about getting the information out to students?
Yeah, I mean, we have, so we relaunched our website along with our transformation a couple of years ago. And I think our website's not perfect, as most websites aren't perfect, but it's much better it used to be. Information is much easier to find. And I think, we're really trying to make sure students don't have to like read through like blocks and blocks of text. We want students to get to the things that they're most interested in. So rethinking our web presence, we're really active on our social media channels, and we know students often respond to our social media posts. So when we're trying to market an event or program at the last minute, we're usually trying to do that through our social media channels. But we also have an active presence in Today at Brown and on the Brown calendar. So our event, every event and program at the Career Center is listed in Today at Brown, in the Brown University calendar. You can filter the calendar for Career Center events. So we've really done a lot to increase our visibility through sort of the Brown channels. But we've also, in some ways, changed our strategy for how we're reaching students. So one of the things that I do each year, along with colleagues here in the center and recently Dean Zia in the college, is we teach a class to sophomores called Exploring Career Options. It's UNIV 0456. You're welcome to look that up in Courses at Brown. It's a fall-only course. And it's a half-credit course, but this is a way to bring career exploration into the classroom and to teach students how they can engage in exploration before they choose their concentration. We strategically have this class in the fall of students' sophomore years. It's a sophomore-only course, but we know that sophomore year can be a really challenging one for students because you declare your concentration in the spring of your sophomore year. And many students feel like they have to declare a concentration that relates to the thing they think they want to do when they graduate. And we try to kind of disentangle that notion in the class. We try to tell students, you don't have to study something that completely relates to what you want to do later, and that there are some strong connections and some weak connections between what you study and what you do when you graduate. So many students will choose to study economics because they think they should study that to get a job in investment banking. But the reality is there are many students who study history or who pursue degrees in sciences or who study engineering and get jobs in finance and consulting. And so we try to help students understand how they're developing a holistic skill set through their studies, through their extracurricular activities, through their student jobs, through their internships, and how that connects into their larger, career exploration process. So we're trying to do things through the classroom. Our assistant deans have gotten out into departments more and more. So they're spending time with faculty in different departments to help engage students around careers at the department level. And we've launched many new programs and brought alumni back to campus in new ways. Aix's team is probably the most instrumental in the office at doing that. But it's a way to energize students and get them engaged in careers, not just by talking to someone in the center, but by talking to someone who's actually doing a job or a career out in the world and can provide some really specific insight and feedback. So those are some of the things that we've done to try to change the way that we're getting students involved in career exploration. And we want students to get involved as early as they can, because the earlier they start to think about this stuff, even if they're not doing an internship their freshman year, if they start thinking about it, that gives them more opportunities over 4 years to figure out what path they might want to pursue when they first graduate.
Great, thank you. And I can vouch that I've seen the visibility of the center really increase over the past few years. It's been great. Aixa, we had a question. I'll start with you. Maybe we'll want to branch over to Matt. How can a dean who's working on a professional pathway support hundreds of students?
I saw that question. It's a great question. Know that some of these meetings are not just one-on-one. They are also arranging programming throughout the year specifically for this pathway. So they run a series of workshops. They run a series of networking events. They, in conjunction with my office and with employer partnerships, they run these spotlight events too that hundreds of students can attend to be aware and learn about the different pathways. We have our finance spotlight coming up where we have 10 employers coming to campus that can highlight the different opportunities within the finance world. So know that they're outreaching to hundreds of students in a variety of ways. It's not just that one-on-one appointment, although they have open hours throughout the semester that any student can sign up with to do a quick check-in or meeting throughout the time. But most of the time they're interacting through these important intentional workshops within that pathway that they can outreach to a number of students.
Yeah, I think that's accurate, very accurate. I think the role of the deans is not to be individual advisors with students in a particular industry. So as Aixa pointed out, the deans do run weekly open hours. Each of the deans runs weekly open hours. Each of the deans also has a limited number of one-on-one appointments that students can make if they have specific questions. But the dean's role is really to build an infrastructure within the center and on campus for helping students navigate and explore careers in their industry pathway. And that will include bringing alumni to campus in new ways that support the career search process for students in things like tech or finance. So, our assistant dean of technology and tech ventures is thinking about or will be bringing alumni to campus to do mock technical interviews with students. Like that's something that will take this energy in the alumni community, this expertise in the alumni community, and bring it to campus. So the dean isn't going to be running 50 or 100 mock interview sessions with students, but our alumni will be. Our assistant dean for finance and consulting is bringing Wall Street prep training to campus in partnership with one of our faculty in the econ department. And this will support 160 students getting an in-depth training on how to prepare for financial services technical interviews when they're potentially going into interviews for investment banking or private equity or hedge funds. So there's a multiplier effect that we want these deans to have. It's not just the one-on-one, it's really scaling up programs and support for students around that pathway. But, we are still thinking about how we provide that one-on-one support. And in some cases, we've talked about having pathways experts in residence, where we might have alumni who are really interested in even going above mentorship, and doing something where they have regular office hours with us. Where they might say, okay, on Tuesdays, this alum is available for 3 hours to talk about their career in finance or just careers in finance in general. We actually have an alum who wants to do that with us. And so part of the dean's role is to find those people, build that volunteer relationship, and then execute on connecting that alum with students in meaningful ways. So the dean role is expansive, and it's not just one-on-one advising. But I will say, I know the deans are busy, but even their open hours and their counseling appointments haven't filled up. So I suspect as more students know they can do that, there'll be more demand. But we haven't seen a capacity issue yet in the deans being able to support students who want that one-on-one advising and conversations.
Yeah, I think as in many things at Brown, the opportunities and the options are huge and varied. And I feel like that could be overwhelming to some students. We had a question come in through the registration about personality testing or career matching testing. Do you do any sort of testing like that in the center?
Yeah, we have our career counseling team has certified MBTI staff members, certified Clifton Strengths staff members. So if a student wants to do an assessment like MBTI or Clifton Strengths, they're welcome to come in. We provide the assessment for free, and then they can take the assessment and then meet with a counselor to sort of review the results and talk through what that means and help them interpret, how that might influence their direction that they're pursuing in terms of their career. We don't recommend it for all students, but if a student comes in and asks us for it, we'll certainly provide it, no charge. And for some students who are really kind of undecided or who might need a little bit of inspiration for how to move forward with their career search, assessment can be a really helpful tool. We also emphasize to students that assessments aren't scientific. Like there's not a lot of scientific basis. If you read anything about MBTI or Clifton Strengths, like they're not really grounded in science, but they can help students get unstuck sometimes from thinking about, you know, what's possible for them, and help them think about their relationships and the way that they approach work in new ways. So they can be a really good tool for some students, and anyone who wants one can come into the center and let us know, and we'll work with them on that.
Mikkel, this seems like a great time to dispel a myth because we hear this a lot from students. They're so overwhelmed and they don't know where to start, or they don't have an idea of which pathway to go. And sometimes that's a hindrance to them coming because the myth is, I have to know exactly what I want for the Career Center to be useful. And that's not true. I would love parents to help dispel that myth. We're also here for the students that don't know how to get started and need to think about where to go. The PCAs are a great place to start, the peer career advisors, where they can talk about what are the next steps or the steps you need to take so that you can help figure out just that next step. So I would encourage parents to encourage their students because we hear that a lot. Students sit back and go, well, I don't know even where to start, or I don't know which pathway to choose. It's a myth that we're helpful with that step as well.
Great, thank you. I have a few about summer internships that I want to go through pretty quickly. We had a question about study abroad, and if somebody is doing a spring study abroad, could they go straight into a summer internship?
Yes. The only through Sprint, yes, for sure. The only requirement for Sprint isn't that you're on campus, it's that you're an enrolled student, and study abroad students count as enrolled students for the spring semester. So yeah, if a student's abroad currently and they want to apply for Sprint, they can do that. They can get the application forms. They can you know, review all the opportunities, and they can definitely participate in that process. For outside of Sprint, that's also possible if students are looking for internships. If they need help thinking about that process, all of our counselors and all of our staff and PCAs do Zoom appointments. So if you have a student that's abroad in a different country and just wants to meet, there's usually an opportunity to do that. And if it has to be outside of business hours here because of the time zone difference, your student should just email the General Career Center email address, and we'll be able to make time to support them in at some point, you know, soon. So yeah, that shouldn't be a barrier for students to participate in internships. It can be a little bit of a barrier if they need to interview like with somebody in the US. So that's something that we can help students negotiate, you know, at an employer or at an organization. If there's interviews and those interviews are in person, we can help them, you know, think about how to negotiate. And
Oh, I think Matt is frozen. Matt?
Oh, did I freeze for a second?
Oh, you're back now.
I was just saying, like, for students that need to do something in person, interview in person in the US and they're abroad, if they need help negotiating that with an employer, we can usually help with that a little bit. So.
Right. And then we had a question specifically about finance internships in the summer. Is it too late to get something like that?
No, but it's probably not going to be at this point at a large investment bank necessarily. Finance recruiting is interesting, and I could probably spend a whole presentation just on finance recruiting. I will say this just really briefly. When many people think about finance, they think about investment banking as that pathway to finance. I want to preface this by saying investment banking is not the only pathway into finance. There are many, many other ways to go. Even at some of the bigger banks, investment banking isn't the only way in. And there are many, many smaller, mid-size, even more boutique type financial services organizations where students can find excellent opportunities. So I want to dispel the myth that investment banking is the only way in. That being said, many students want to get jobs in investment banking when they graduate at places like Goldman or Bank of America or JP Morgan, et cetera. So if your student thinks they're one of those students who wants to get a job at Goldman Sachs as an analyst, investment banking analyst when they graduate, they need to be ready to begin the recruiting process by the middle of their fall semester of their sophomore year. most investment banking internships that happen during junior year, so the summer before your senior year, get posted in the late fall, early winter of your sophomore year. So by December, Goldman, JP Morgan are starting to post their summer internship opportunities for not the coming summer, but the next summer. So right now, the investment banks are recruiting for their interns for summer of 2026, not summer of 2025. Students should be ready, if they're interested in investment banking, to apply for those internships during the spring semester. So students should be applying to those. So actually I misspoke. Students who want investment banking internships in 2 summers can apply now. So there are open investment banking internship opportunities now. Interviews for those positions will happen usually in the summer of this year, spring, summer at the latest, at the end, towards the end of August, depending on which firm you're talking about. And offers for summer 2026 will be made by the end of summer 2025. So that's really early. And I just want to also say, if you're interested in a job, a full-time job as an analyst in investment banking when you graduate, the only way to get that job is to have a summer internship. All of the investment banking firms are hiring 100% of their first-year analysts from their summer internship pools. So it's virtually impossible to get a full-time job as an investment banking analyst if you didn't have a summer internship at that firm. So you can imagine that's pretty high stakes and pretty stress inducing for our students. And if your student thinks they want to do it, but just isn't decided or isn't ready to go yet, that's okay. There are lots of other ways in, there are lots of other opportunities. There are lots of firms that do like smaller tier investment banking that aren't on that schedule. So I don't want to create panic
I was going to reiterate that,
families, but I just want to be realistic. You know, if your student is interested in investment banking when they graduate and they're not really ready to begin the process of applying now, I don't want to say it's too late, but it's getting to be too late.
And it's the larger firms that go through this process. There are smaller companies and boutique companies and organizations that are hiring in the finance sector that don't follow this timeline. But if you're talking your Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Bank of America, Matt is correct. It is an earlier time frame.
And I just want to stress, that's not the right fit for every student who's actually going through the process. So many students are going through the process and it's not the right fit for them. But they're going through the process because they think they should, they think that's what they're interested in. And sometimes when I talk to those students, they're not really able to articulate exactly why they're interested in it. So those are some conversations we have in the center with students. Scotty, who's our assistant dean for finance consulting, is really busy this time of year having those conversations with students and building programs. But the good news is we're also building out an infrastructure to help students who aren't on that investment banking track or who aren't ready to be on that track to think about what their pathway into finance might look like if that's what they want to pursue. So, yeah.
Sorry, well, I'll shift to another topic that's it might also be a little, I think it's on the top of people's minds. Yeah. It can be a little stress inducing. It's about AI, or some refer to it as AGI, so artificial intelligence. I know that's something that Brown is thinking a lot in a lot of different ways on campus and in the classroom. How is it the Career Exploration Center thinking about AI and counseling students when it comes to the future of careers?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have some staff now. One of our assistant dean for technology and tech ventures is actually in some ways an AI expert. So he's helping bring in some new knowledge and expertise to help students think about how to engage with AI in the career search process. I would say my perspective on it is, you know, if using AI to write a first version of your cover letter or a first version of your resume helps you get started, that's great. But please, please do not send an AI unedited version of your resume or cover letter. And by edited, I mean it should be somewhat heavily edited to make it yours, not just like, oh, let me change this word and this word. I do know that firms that use AI to review materials, and there's some of the bigger firms, that hire lots and lots of students, do use AI to scan through resumes, cover letters. They can actually sometimes catch when someone used AI to write something or just submitted something that was AI generated only. Um, I would also say, and this is directly from some of our recruiters, that many recruiters are not using AI in the evaluation process for candidates. In fact, they're explicitly saying they don't want their decisions being made by a computer. They want to be able to read resumes. They want to be able to really see, and make judgments about the students they're most interested in. So, I think AI, like having skills with AI is something that, we talk about a lot. Like how to use AI is something that I know is going to be an initiative that the provost is leading on campus through many of our faculty and departments. Um, and I don't think we've taken like an official position here in the Career Center about how you use AI. But when I've talked to students about it, I'm like, if it's a tool that helps you get started, or it's a tool that can help you, learn more about something, that's great. But just like any use of AI, you need to understand what the sources are of the answers that AI is giving you. And if you are generating content, you need to make it your own. So it's not just standalone AI content that you're using or submitting.
And Matt, I'm sorry, because I think the question was also geared towards how is AI impacting future job market? And I think to speak to that, I want to go back to the Assistant Dean for Tech and Tech Ventures. This is a question we have from a lot of students, and we're working very closely with our CS department to talk about that. But know that it is still very skill-based training. Employers are still looking for key skills. The top skills they're looking for are analytic skills, technical skills, team building skills. I think we forget that AI is changing the way things are happening, but jobs are still going to be available to students based on these key skills they're going to get in this education. So we are working to educate the students to make them aware of what are the key skills you need that set you apart from the AI base. And we're also keeping an eye out on those important jobs that are coming forward. So this is always the changing nature of industry, right? The jobs that were popular 5 years ago are very different than the jobs that are popular right now, but based on the skills that students develop, they can pivot in these different areas and grow. So I wanted to reiterate that. Matt, I don't know if you have any other thoughts.
No, that's good clarification. Thank you for highlighting that. I think I would say directly, like we haven't seen any jobs or types of jobs eliminated by AI yet. There hasn't been a trend in like, oh, these types of jobs aren't being hired for anymore. If anything, AI is probably going to help the tech sector by having more. Like right now, the tech sector has hired less on campus over the last few years, but I would suggest as more programmers and AI, programmers are needed, that may actually go up a little bit in coming years. I'll crib something from my daughter's college application because there was a question about AI that she had to write an essay about this year. And she wrote something to the effect of like, AI can't replace humans because AI is completely reliant on humans right now to exist. So I don't know if that aligns with anyone's perspective on the call, but I do think it is an evolving world. And the one thing that we tell students is the job that you might get in 4 years or 10 years might not even exist yet. So if you think 4 to 5 years ago, AI was maybe a thing that people talked about, but it wasn't a job category, a job sector. Now there are jobs in AI. And so I think that's something that we try to tell students a lot is you can't really always know exactly what the possibilities are going to be in 4, 5, 10 years because some jobs haven't been created yet. And that's exciting. It's a little scary sometimes, but it's exciting. And as we do see trends, we certainly try to share those with our students and try to make sure that we're on top of them and helping to bring opportunities to campus that are going to fit the skill set of our students.
That I think is a great place to stop. Just the idea that we're developing skills for whatever jobs out there along the way in the future. Matt and Aixa, thank you so much. I'm going to put a survey in the chat so that folks can let us know how we did and give us some feedback for the future. Could I have you both just give like a quick last tip and maybe the best way to reach you if people need to get in touch? Because I know there's some questions we haven't answered.
Yeah, if people want to email me directly, my email address is on our website, matthew_donato@brown.edu. Last year, I got a couple of emails after this event, and I was happy to respond to them. So if you have questions, you're welcome to email me. My advice, my last bit of advice, I know we're a little over time, but when you're asking your student about whether they have an internship or not, don't approach it from a, hey, have you started this process yet? Ask them this question. Ask them, hey, what are you studying? What is your favorite thing that you're studying last semester or this semester? And how does that relate to what you might want to do this summer? That's a much better way to open a conversation with your student than saying, hey, have you applied to 5 internships yet? So it's because it opens up the door to a conversation, and it also aligns with this idea that the stuff that they're doing on campus, whether it's in the classroom or outside the classroom, probably relates to the things they might want to do this summer. So ask them that. Ask them what they're studying, what they're engaged in, and how that relates to what they want to do, rather than did you apply? You can ask them too if you want to apply, but ask that second.
I love that, Matt. You can also email me at aixa_kid@brown.edu, or you can also do the Career Center at brown.edu. Just know that we have a general Career Center. The tip I have, listen, I want them all on Brown Connect Plus. So my tip is when students say, I don't know where to start, send them to open hours with the PCAs and tell them to go to Brown Connect Plus. Those are 2 easy steps and great places to start. We just want to spread the word to students, as many as possible, but I wholeheartedly believe what Matt just said as well, that is a good way to approach it. And again, as a parent of 2 college students, I absolutely understand the need to encourage them, but I will tell you right now, they tend to listen to the center more. I have a daughter who actually has gone to an advisor here rather than taking advice from me because, right, this is advice from mom. Doesn't make any sense, but advice from Jim in the center, oh, that's always right. So know that we encourage them to come here because they may listen to us a little bit more.
That is so true. As spoken from somebody with 2 college age kids of my own, so I get it. Thank you both, and thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. We hope you have a great rest of your day wherever you are in the world, and we hope you join us next week for our other webinars. Take care, everyone.